Fantastic, we're here. So budgeting is the first thing I want to look at. Now, budgeting is something that hopefully you will have a basic understanding of, but budgeting is in essence where you have a certain amount of money and that's what you have to spend on and use to cover all of your outgoings. So it's quite straightforward. What we have in is what we can spend. Now, what we don't want to do is be spending more than we have coming in, right? So if we have, let's say for ease of maths, £100 coming in, and what we want to spend is worth £80, then we are spending less than we have coming in, right? But if we have £100 coming in and what we're choosing to spend is above that, is £120, then we're running at a loss. All right, so we are spending more money than we have, and that is kind of a debt economy. That's a debt lifestyle. That is, you know, not really the place that you want to be. Now, I would say I'm pretty debt averse as an individual. Some people are more open to debt, and debt is kind of where you borrow money or you go into money that isn't actually yours and you have to pay it back. And when you pay it back, you pay it with interest, which is where you pay more back than you borrowed. All right, now I would always want to live within the budget that I have, live within the realms of the money that I earn, and if I want to buy something or increase my lifestyle, you know, and be able to shop at Waitrose instead of Lidl, or go on holiday to the Canary Islands instead of Wales, then I need to increase the money that I have coming in my budget so that I can spend out on that. Now, I'm not going to get into the real details of debt because you can go, there are different viewpoints on it, and I am not advising you financially. I am just saying what I think is really important for us to learn, particularly as we're going forward into kind of university or you know, early in our lives when we're kind of trying to work out how to budget and live independently. So I want to give a little bit of an example, couple of examples for you. So one is when I was at university, I used to get a food allowance from my parents. So that was the only bit of funding they kind of gave me on a regular basis. I had to have a job to earn any other money. So if I wanted to go out, I needed that money, or I basically didn't eat. And they gave me £21 a week. So they worked out that I needed £3 a day to buy myself enough food. If I was economical with the way I shopped, I would be absolutely fine. I wasn't going to starve. I wasn't going to get scurvy or anything. I would be totally okay. And I absolutely was. That £21 a week was completely fine. It actually worked in my favour in many ways because I lived with some girlfriends and we all pooled our money together that we had for food, and we basically would do a food shop every, I can't remember, a couple of weeks. But that £20, when you pool it together with 3 others and we had an £80 budget, £80 goes a lot further than £20 does. So we were able to actually live really, really well with that. And it's always worth thinking about, because if you're going somewhere and you're buying food, for example, from the supermarket, you need to buy a whole bag of potatoes and that's £1. You need to be able to eat all those potatoes, but it goes further if you have more people, that makes sense. So I divided that down. I had my £21 a week and I worked out how much I spent on my food shop, and so maybe it was like £15 a week equivalent on kind of stocking up the food for breakfast, lunch and supper, and I would take my lunch up to uni, and then I would have a bit left for kind of snacks or a coffee or something on university campus. Now the rest of my money I had a jobs earning, so that's how I kind of topped up my kind of expenditure and stuff like that. So that's really a really important thing to think about, kind of what have you got coming in, and that is actually still a philosophy I live by at the moment. So I pay myself a salary through the company, and then that goes into one account, and then I actually pay myself, I have a standing order that goes into my current account that I use on a daily basis, and I use that. So that is got a sort of a budget in. So I basically take my salary that I get each month, bearing in mind, okay, I run my own company and we go through good bits and bad bits, and we're working on kind of building the company. I take a sort of a very small standard salary, and I look at that salary that I have, and let's say it's £1,000, and I work out what are my fixed expenses in that. So I have things like my mortgage, and we have bills that we have to pay, so electricity, gas, internet, what else, like water and council tax. Okay, they are pretty much all of them, I think, in there. And what we've done, so that's me and Ryan, is that we have worked out kind of what they are every, added everything up. And obviously sometimes your electricity goes up and down, and so we take an average and then we add on a small buffer so that we are kind of keeping money in that account. So I put, let's say, for math reasons here, if I've got £1,000, I put £650 into my house account, and that covers off my mortgage, my bills and everything like that. That all then comes out of there. So again, I kind of budget over there. This leaves me now with £350, okay, 1,000 less 650, to spend on food and, you know, getting through the month, petrol, presents, outings, etc. Now, one way that I find is when you're on a low budget and you have a small amount of money, is to then divide that budget again, which is what I mentioned before. I basically divide it up over some weeks are 5-week months, so I basically work out if it's a 5-week month between paychecks. We'll talk about that in salaries, actually, about 5 and 4-week months and being paid and things. And I divide it up, and so I then get an allowance into my kind of everyday current account that I use each week. And that just helps me kind of keep an eye on what I'm using. And I'll talk there about a bank account that I use, and that's Monzo. I'm sure you've all heard of it. I definitely would recommend it, not affiliate, not anything, because what I like about it is it's instantaneous. So when you, with a traditional bank, you do an expense, you kind of spend £20 at Sainsbury's, it comes up a few days later. Whereas with Monzo, it comes up immediately on your app, and then you can delegate it to certain areas. So you can kind of really helps you with that budgeting side. And that's a really useful tool for you if you're trying to get your head around something and kind of initiate that. They also do great things on there, like they have a saving pot. So let's say you went and spent £21.50 in the supermarket, you can do a saving pot that rounds up to the nearest pound. So it puts that 50p, because that would £21.50 add 50 takes you to 22. It puts that 50p in a saving pot. So it's kind of like a piggy bank vibe. So that's something that I would definitely recommend doing, because you'll be surprised how much money you can save into that little pot and it can be a treat pot. So you could use it for a new dress, or you could, you know, go and buy some fancy shoes, or you could kind of put it towards a holiday or a festival or something that, and it's money that you wouldn't really notice otherwise because it's pennies. So that's a really, really good thing to do to help you with your budgeting. Now, what I want to make really clear is when you're trying to save, they kind of suggest, you know, maybe like 10% of your savings. Now, it really varies on how much you earn and how much you need to live off. So you must look at your outgoings and your survival requirements. Now, one of my kids, not really my kids, I used to look after her. She is now 22. Definitely don't look after her anymore, but she's probably a cross between, in my view, I always think she's a cross between my kid and one of my sisters and like one of my best mates. But she was at uni and she hadn't figured out exactly how much she needed to spend each month, and so she had this allowance. And she was putting like half of it in savings, and then she'd get to like 2 weeks or 3 weeks into the month and run out of money, and she'd ring up her parents and be like, guys, I've run out of money. And they were like, but why? And she's like, well, I put half of it in my savings. And they were like, no, that's not the point of savings. You can't just, like, you have to save within your budget. Like, she couldn't just go and top up her money by getting, you know, asking for more from her parents. Being like, but I've run out. So you need to be able to save what's realistic. And that's kind of really important that you, and just try and instill that behaviour. So whenever you get any money into your account, even if it's only £1 you can save, you know, put that aside. And you might be building up to something like buying a car, or you might just be using that savings for like a real treat. But it's about instilling that behaviour and that pattern that when we get money in, we save a certain amount of it, whether that's a percentage or whether that is literally just a nominal figure or whatever that is, and always take that out at the beginning. So that's the key thing I found with budgeting, is get rid of it all at the beginning of the month. So if you get that £1,000 in, get rid of your mortgage, get rid of your rent, get rid of your bills, get rid of your saving amount, and that leaves you with the disposable, the bit left to kind of spend and enjoy. So that means then you're not getting to mid-month and having to pay a bill and you realised you've kind of got your budgeting a little bit wrong. So that's kind of a really small snapshot on budgeting, but there are great tools out there, great resources for reading and things like that. Just try, and the principle of budgeting is that you spend less or the amount that you earn, all right? So the amount coming in and the amount going out match, or the amount going out is less than that, okay? But yeah, definitely kind of give it a go, take control. So go and have a look at your expenditures, go and look at what kind of your outgoings are each week or each month, and start to get a handle on how much you're spending.